It's Saturday night in Chengdu, and we just wrapped up the flying disc competition here at the 2025 World Games. Wow, what a final day for the medal matches. Robin Fennig, Charlie Eisenhood, and Robin, the USA comes away with the gold on Universe Point over Canada, 13-12, an absolute barn burner final, one for the ages. We're going to be watching that tape for a long time. And in the bronze medal match, France gets a 13-10 win over Germany to become the first European team to finish on the podium at the World Games. So let's just quickly talk about that bronze medal match. France, I thought, just the better team start to finish. They're hitting the deep shots and coming up with some defensive efforts.
Yeah, I think it's been their best offensive performance of the week. You could see that they got Salome Roulet a lot of touches in the reset space. I thought she played absolutely just phenomenally for them. So sure-handed, just served as an amazing pivot handler for their offense to reset the count, was really aggressive at breaking the mark and getting the disc to folks downfield in really small spaces. Some of her inside breaks near the end zone as they were getting into their red zone set, I think kept their offense in rhythm, and it allowed them to score more easily when we saw them falter earlier in the week in the reset space.
Yeah, she and Paul Benvenien were fantastic back there. Benvenien, what a tournament he had. I mean, not necessarily somebody we were talking about on the French roster coming in, and I mean, he was immense, critical for their win in this bronze medal match.
Absolutely. I mean, most of his international experience representing Team France has been on the men's side. So this season was really the first time we've gotten to see Benvenien as that centerpiece handler in a mixed game. And I thought he did a really good job of controlling tempo, taking aggressive shots when they were there without hesitation, being willing to push down fields to attack defenders in the end zone. I thought he was just phenomenal for the French team all week.
Germany finishes in fourth place for the second cycle in a row. That's brutal. I mean, they did well, I think, to get into the semifinals, give themselves a chance. I mean, they almost beat the U.S. in pool play again, but just not quite enough in the end. Missed too many deep shots today.
Yeah, I agree. Today, the wind was kind of inconsistent, so it's really hard to judge as a thrower. And there were definitely times where the disc started on the right line, and you could see that the disc was pushed up or pushed down. And as an offense, you have to be a little more conservative. I thought earlier in the week, they were just content to get big unders, but it really felt like their game plan was to attack deep. And the French were just more punishing in transition than we had seen from their defensive offense all week.
Well, let's move on to the gold medal match. What an incredible game. We knew it was going to be great coming in. The number one defense from the U.S., number one offense from Canada. And, man, it was a kind of a messy game, but I think that just speaks to the level of quality of defense in there. USA getting an early lead, Canada breaking back late to get into halftime, and then they get a couple of unanswered breaks to start the second half. And were you starting to believe that Canada maybe had a chance to come away with gold?
I absolutely did. I mean, especially the middle stretch of the game, their offense just looked so poised and in control. Mika Kurahashi, her decision-making in the red zone, just perfect. I mean, she was able to swing the disc off the sideline in moments where there were no options, creating space. Sometimes she even throwing her teammates open in the center of the field to expand the throwing angles of attack. I thought that she played very well. I also was impressed by Gallant, not just today, all week. I thought he was able to link the handling and cutting space so effectively for their offense, and no one on the U.S. team was really able to slow him down.
At 10-8, Canada had an opportunity to make it 11-8. They got a turnover. U.S. offense still dealing with some struggles, drops, weird turnovers, and Anushka Beaudry had the disc on the goal line in the end zone we're standing in and missed to look to the back of the end zone. U.S. would go on to score, and ultimately they were finally able to climb back to level, take the lead with a break. They got the disc on Universe. What was the reason for the USA comeback, did you think, in that kind of final stanza of the game?
I think, again, having that strong defensive game plan, they were able to consistently make Thomas Edmonds look a little uncomfortable. He'd only had one turnover all week, and he had two in this game in back-to-back points. The U.S.'s ability to mix up between tight matchup defensive pressure with really well matched, assignments across the board, and that kind of poach with the women matching players, Cami Groom accelerating to make an important block and then was rewarded with the score for bookends down the stretch. That point in particular really made, you could see the entire Canadian team just have this collective exhale, a slight change in body language. They reoriented and were able to hold thereafter. But again, it's those tough moments of mixing up the pressure, changing the pace a little bit, that put Canada on their heels in ways they hadn't been tested throughout this tournament.
I was blown away by the quality of the red zone defense from the United States late. The resets for sure, but nobody was getting open in the cutting space. They had a really hard time finding options and then ended up having a couple of difficult turns late. And, down the stretch, the U.S. offense showed up. They were able to march down the field. Not having that strict OD line meant that they got fresher bodies on the field, and you could really see that on the Universe point.
Yes, and a lot of those, the turns that led to breaks, I think happened in that short field, fast-paced transition set where the U.S. is able to punish folks who aren't matched up in transition. So Cami's goal in particular, I think they were in the driver's seat, and it changed the momentum of the game. Canada was able to have some nice plays towards the end of the game. But again, I think both teams, in a game like that, you expect kind of the exchange of punches. And ultimately, the United States' depth and defensive game plan was the final knockout that delivered them a gold.
I have one more thing.
Yeah. They don't want you to say it, Charlie.
That was pretty good, right? Okay. Well, in the end, it is the USA walking away with another World Games title. They've won every time since 2005. The very first World Games that Ultimate Frisbee was a part of, USA versus Canada, Canada got the gold. Canada is so close. They're going to rue some opportunities in this one. The drop in the end zone, a couple of red zone turns, but the USA had their share of weird turns too. Dropped Callahan. So, man, just a incredibly hard-fought game. And Canada, you asked a great question in the press conference. Just want to come back to this. Canada, number one in spirit in the rankings coming into today. And what a moment when Malcolm Bryson overturned his own call after seeing the replay. And I just thought a really well-spirited game considering the level and the intensity.
And I think Canada historically has this reputation internationally about making bad calls. I think from start to finish, that team not only competed with the highest margins of efficiency, highest margins of athleticism, the U.S. contending there, obviously, but the highest just integrity and sportsmanship. I think that there's a lot of folks out there who maybe wish that game advisors had more power to rule on things, but I think today's game between the U.S. and Canada showcases that even when the stakes are the highest and the game is the closest, that players can take that step back and make the right call. And again, I think that example with Malcolm Bryson just showcases it's not just about being the best athlete or the best teammate, but you have to be a player who showcases spirit of the game in these high moments of pressure. I think it was, for me as an elite athlete, that's what I aim to hit. And to see these people that I admire and have played against or have watched compete at the highest levels show up and do that in a game like this, it makes me feel really good about the sport.
Well, your final thoughts on Chengdu, the World Games, this experience, flying disc back, disc golf back in the World Games this year as well. And this is news I can share because it's now public in China. The course they play disc golf on is being permanently installed. So you will be able to come to Chengdu and play the World Games course. How cool is that?
That's incredible. Honestly, the overall Chengdu experience has been phenomenal. I think to be able to see all of these games live in person, especially the debut of China at this stage, to see the amount of improvement their team has made, because they obviously didn't get the number of streamed games that the favorites did. I feel very hopeful for the future of Ultimate. I think that we saw some resilience from teams like Australia, who maybe struggled early, but they were able to right the ship and finish out with 2 wins. I think it's like the whole athletic experience of being able to see these people live and just like performing at their peak. It's something, as someone who coaches, who plays, who volunteers, who organizes, like from every aspect of this event, I was just incredibly impressed, and it put a lot of, I would say, wind in my sails to go home and put a lot of energy back into Frisbee.
Totally agree. Super energizing. And behind us, lots of volunteers getting signatures from their favorite athletes. Saw some jersey trades. I was actually out at a market last night, and somebody showed us a picture with Thomas Edmonds, with a guy who traded for an Edmonds jersey, and he was cooking food at one of the stands. So cool to see. I mean, this has really been a part of the Chengdu life. Like if you walk around town, there's World Game stuff everywhere, and the stands, we had a pretty good crowd tonight. So really an awesome experience overall. And final thoughts on USA, Canada, and France as our medalists.
It was a historic week to be here, and I feel really grateful to be here.
All right, that's going to do it for our coverage here from Chengdu. Thank you so much for tuning into the Ultishow, and if you watch the broadcast, we appreciate being with you on the airwaves all week long. For Robin Fennig, I'm Charlie Eisenhood, signing off from China. We'll see you in 2029 in Germany at the next World Games.